Hello, I'm Dr. Jim Anderson, and 'tis the season for college graduations. I was recently given the opportunity to give a keynote address as part of an engineering school's graduation ceremony. Now the trick here is that I didn't have a keynote presentation for a graduation ceremony in my bag of tricks, and so it meant that I was really pretty much starting from ground zero. I had to build a brand new presentation. As I was going through the effort of putting this keynote presentation together, it dawned on me there's probably a lot of other speakers who find themselves in this situation. And so maybe it would be helpful for me to share with you the steps that I went through in building a keynote presentation.
Always start with your audience. I followed this rule. I realized I was going to be talking to a group of graduating engineering students, some of their parents, their professors, and various other people, dates, administrators, etc. This gave me a fairly homogeneous group, and it meant that I needed to work engineering content into my speech so that they would feel as though I was talking directly to them. Start at the end. What's the purpose of a keynote? You probably aren't going to change any lives, so you'd better make sure that you don't try to. In my case, I had decided that I had two goals: to entertain and to provide motivation for the graduates to succeed as they move forward. We know that you can do it. Content is king. So what to say? Since I knew I was not going to be changing any lives with my speech, I decided to focus on two things: funny stories that have happened to me during my career, and a discussion about what things the graduates needed to be aware of in order to have a great career themselves. I mixed in several references to paying off student loans, everybody has those, homework, all engineers have too much of that, and dealing with professors. These were common elements that everyone could relate to. Watch the clock. Early on, I asked how much time I had for my keynote. I was told that 20 minutes would be perfect. It turns out that this was very important. I shaped my entire speech to fit in this time. It is instant death to the speaker who goes on too long, especially in an after-dinner speaking situation like this was. People speak at about 150 words per minute, and since I was going to be speaking for 20 minutes, I knew that I had to limit myself to about 3,000 words, which meant that I needed to write it out. There is some controversy to this point, but here it goes anyway. I wrote my speech out from start to finish. There was two reasons that I did this. The first was to make sure that I could fit my speech into the 20-minute window. My written speech needed to be no longer than 3,000 words. The next was because I could remember reading somewhere that if you want to deliver a memorable speech, then you need to get your wording just perfect. Sort of the difference between I have a nice thought versus I have a dream. In order to do this, you need to write that speech out word for word. So I did it. Then I proceeded to revise it about 1,000,000 times. Memorize it. So if you're never supposed to write out your speech, then of course you should never memorize it. However, this is basically exactly what I ended up doing. I practiced my speech over and over, reading it as it was written. After about 5 times of doing this, I was able to spend more time looking at my pretend audience than looking at my written speech. Did I ever completely memorize my speech? No. I did get it stuck in my brain well enough so that when I really only used my written out speech as an occasional reminder. This meant that I spent most of the speech making eye contact with my audience. Use big print. For the version of my written out speech that I had before me when I was delivering the speech, I made some changes to the written out speech. I increased the font size to a nice, easy to read 16-point Arial. I then turned every sentence into its own bullet point. Needless to say, this resulted in a longer printed speech. It was 13 pages long in its final form. Oh, and make sure that you put page numbers on each page of your printed speech. You just know that you're going to drop the whole thing as you walk to the podium. A highlighter is your friend. As I read over my 13 pages of bulleted sentences, I found it difficult to keep my place. I ended up using a highlighter to highlight the 1 or 2 words in each sentence that were the key idea. This allowed my eyes to dance from highlighted word to highlighted word and has helped me to keep my place better. PowerPoint can be your friend. I'm really good looking, but 20 minutes is a long time for an audience to spend staring at me. Since PowerPoint slides were already being used as a part of the graduation dinner, I decided to create some to use as part of my keynote. I ended up creating just 10 slides, and none of them contained any words. Each just contained a single photo. As I delivered my speech, I had written out I had noted that on each slide a small note as to what it contained, and so I knew when to move to the next slide. Each slide reflected what I was talking about at the time in my speech, and so the two media, spoken word and displayed image, helped each other out. Have a good ending. Ultimately, this is what will stick in everyone's memory. I took some extra time and carefully worded one of my last few sentences so that everyone would feel a warm glow of congratulations for the graduates, and that they would feel as though they had been recognized for their achievements. You might be asking yourself, hey, where do I go from here? Well, if you'll take a look just to the right of this video in the upper right hand corner, you'll notice that there's a link there that you can click on. Go ahead and click on that link and you'll be taken to a page that will allow you to sign up for my free monthly public speaking newsletter. In that newsletter, you're going to find great content like you found in this video and a whole lot more. And hey, it's free, so you can't go wrong with that. So take a moment now, click on that link, and sign up for the newsletter.